All right, we're here. This is game three, I guess. I missed the first game. We saw the second one. Deli has a 1-0 lead and another first turn. I don't know if he had first turn in the first game played, but he did have first turn in the second one. And if we look at Tezuka's hand, this hand looks a lot worse than the hand Tezuka had last game. There is a substantial left weakness that looks really unpleasant to deal with. I would expect Deli to start on the left. Now, we might note, Deli also has a left weakness, but he has a little more that might cover it. Like 3566, as just horrendous a level 5 card as it is, can cover 7s facing to the right. He does have a 7 facing to the left himself that can beat things below a 7. He has some play against 7732. There is some reason to think he can do things where Tezuka cannot. But he also has a left weakness, so maybe it'll be a little uncomfortable for him to find a starter on the left side. Was I talking about anything interesting last time I wanted to continue? Almost certainly not. I rarely talk about things that are interesting. So, what do we got instead here? I was going to try to start looking at games through the extremely lazy lens, but I also, which I'll get to in a sec. But I sort of think like calculation can be hard to follow. And so one thing I was talking about last time was sort of speaking of ideas as two move variations and kind of trying to focus instead of like me trying to rattle off potential moves that you can't see on the board. And if you're thinking something else, it's impossible to follow while I'm saying stuff. It's kind of a struggle. I think saying sort of quick two move sequences and then trying to evaluate them might be a better way of doing commentary such that it is listenable to, um, rather than my normal fare. Uh, sorry, I have the window open, so you might hear a helicopter going overhead. Is that the stupid cop helicopter? Might be. The stupid police here, uh, while having some other scandals, flew a cop in the shape of the name of the police department, flew a helicopter at night, which is just great use of tax dollars. Okay, what are we doing here? Does Delhi have to be worried about anything? Yes. Maybe. No. Great answers. 7732 and 7 is covered. 6672, you do have 5637. So it doesn't seem, and there's no obvious combo back. So it doesn't seem like there's anything he has to like. Sometimes you don't have an obvious starter, but they have an obvious move to make, and you just kind of go like, okay, maybe if I go 5, 5, 5, 6, and 7, that gives me a way to plus if they go in 1. But it doesn't seem like there's any need to do that here. He goes in 4 with 5, 6, 3, 7. I did not consider this. For a half second, I thought about 5, 5, 5, 6 in 4, but 5, 6, 3, 7 didn't recapture so cleanly. So he found a move in 4 where 5, 6, 3, 7 does recapture cleanly, and he's able to go on the left while doing something logical. But the disadvantage of this move is he has given up a lot of his ability to take the stuff that Tezuka might play. Will that hurt him? No, probably not. This is probably pretty good. He doesn't have a 7 to the right, so my first thought was Tezuka can maybe play 6, 6, 7, 2, and 7. That's safe. Deli goes 1, and then 7, 7, 3, 2, and 8 is safe. But it isn't, because Dark Flan has 5. So that idea doesn't get me very far. Unless Dark Flan happens to set me up in 2, which it does not, but now we're getting into longer calculations again. So, in the attempt to avoid longer calculations, do we have something else to do? The problem is Tezuka, it's just really painful for Tezuka to ever go in the middle row. Because as soon as his card lands in the middle row, Deli takes it with another card from the middle row. Middle row meaning 2, 5, 8. And suddenly Tezuka's only potential recaptures are in 3, 6, or 9, and those recaptures suck. So maybe looking at 1 and 7 first here is just a mistake. Maybe those positions are going to all be really unpleasant. There's probably ties in a lot of those moves. Like, we'll pick up the solver, and the solver will say everything ties. But like I was talking about last game, the goal of your response here in a position which is going to be difficult is to find something that like gives you an easier path to playing later moves. And that doesn't look like it does so. So my proposal is to play one of the 7 ups in 9. Probably 7732. Because I want to be able to play well, maybe not sure. But my idea is I can recapture with 6, 4, 7, 3, and 6. They cannot capture from 6, so I am creating a difficulty for my opponent, something that makes this game not straightforward for them. And ideally, I do so in a way where if they go in 1 or 7, I can go in the other of 1 or 7, so they don't have a free move. So for instance, if we play 7, 5, 3, 5, and 9, and they go 5, 7, 6, 3, and 1, we can play 7, 7, 3, 2 safely in 7. If they go 5, 7, 6, 3, and 7, we can play 6, 6, 7, 2 safely in 1. And we have 6, 4, 7, 3 for the recapture, and 5, 5, 7, 2 is just a card that sucks. Like, we're stuck with some cards that aren't good here and don't have use on the board. One upside to 5, 5, 7, 2 is I guess it does have a plus wall in 1, which could conceivably matter in some variation, but I think it's very unlikely. So I'm sort of feeling like, yeah, going in 1 or 7 leads to an L type position where Deli can take whatever the card you did in 2 or 8 that set up the L, and it's just really unpleasant. Maybe you hold there. Maybe, you go 1, he goes 7, you go 2, he goes 5, you go 8. Maybe you hold there. But Deli has some cards that could do damage against that kind of thing. And maybe that holds. Like that is promising. It is plausible. Because you do have cards that could be safe in 8. 7, 7, 3, 2 will be safe in 8. Okay, Tezuka goes 6. Neither player has 9. So we're essentially treating this as a corner card. This is fundamentally a corner card in a side square. It is 2 weaknesses, 1 to each player. It gives Tezuka a plus in 5. I think this sets up Deli's cards to sweep pretty well. Your 7, 7, 3, 2 could still be safe in 8, but now 5, 5, 5, 6 controls the bottom row really well. Like, really well. And 3, 5, 6, 6 controls the top row even better. And so we might see something like last game where Deli was able to set up a Z where he just had sweepers. And I could very easily see probably a T where Deli has similar sweepers. But if Deli goes 5, Tezuka goes 3, right? Tezuka has made these paired squares. So it is hard for Deli to set up that sort of force sequence. And if Deli goes 5, then that plus wall in 1 suddenly becomes relevant. And Tezuka has it with 2 different cards. And Deli doesn't really want to go in either of 1 or 7 first. And this made 5 difficult. Okay, this is a more interesting move than I initially gave it credit for sure. Yeah, this has more going in its favor than I would have thought. Yeah. And this is often the case, right? If a good player makes a move that does not make sense to you, there is more going on than whatever jumps out at you. That doesn't mean it works, that doesn't mean it's right. But there is just like Tezuka makes this move, he has more ideas than my quick dismissal of it is gonna be able to appreciate. All right, Deli has picked up a card. I have already forgotten what card it is. No, it's 5, 5, 7, 4. And I had started looking, not saying aloud, but started looking at like, can he use 5, 5, 7, 4 somewhere? That card seems like his worst card. I think 5, 5, 5, 6 and 3, 5, 6, 6 sweep. If he could get 5, 5, 7, 4 and 1 of 1 or 7, you could imagine a T coming out, but you don't really have a card for 5. If you put it in 5, you're really susceptible to those plus walls in 1. I'd be really worried about putting it in 5. So maybe he's thinking like 3 or 9. But then your other cards don't sweep so well. He goes 5. Okay, this is going to be a complicated game because now Tezuka has tools. Deli has a combo back in 2. So the question is, how will the sequencing work? Hmm. Tezuka has too many twos to the right. It just makes it so hard, or to the left. It makes it so hard to set up anything. My guess is 5, 5, 7, 2, and 3 is the main line, right? You want to grab 6. Um, and what's Deli's plan? Yeah, but a side-to-side game is so rough for Tezuka. Yeah, this looked scary for Deli to go into to me, but I think I think this is just another nightmare for Tezuka. He's just getting swept in these structures. In both these games, Deli is just doing a really good job of identifying his side to side or up down advantage and forcing the game into, or not necessarily forcing, but like just happily playing, this time forcing, the other time playing into it, playing into where he has that vertical or horizontal advantage and just making it impossible for Tezuka. I don't know if I even think there's a tie here. Like 7, 7, 3, 2, and 7, Deli goes 1, and his remaining cards are so good. Maybe you have something there, but I just don't see why you would. My instinct is 3. I'm gonna pop open the solver. I think this might be over. Um, I think this might be over. I tend to assume there are ties somewhere, but this just seems like the ties are usually in positions that look bad because you can make your cards combine in some unexpected way that's hard to see. But I don't think the cards can combine here. So now I'm going to look really foolish when there's like heat. Um, but that's for future me to suffer. There's not going to be 8 ties, by the way. Alright, so Deli plays in 4. And this was very dangerous. This looks like a very strong starter. Now, we don't have a comparison case, but this looks very strong. 29 losses, 11 ties. My idea was 7, 5, 3, 5, and 9. This is a loss. My backup idea was 7, 7, 3, 2, and 9. This is also a loss. So I can't even go like, ooh, look at my moves, showing there was a logical way to tie. Um, yeah. So my instincts were losses. And Tezuka and I play very differently. So, if all our instincts are losses. Tezuka's move did not lose. Fantastic move in 6 then. Oh, yeah. Good job, Tezuka. Um, yeah. I got 2 bites at the apple, and neither of my bites worked. Tezuka gets just 1 move to make, and he finds a non-losing move. And given that there were like relatively few ties, there might have been some move that clarified easily, right? There might have been some move in 1 or 9 that just ties pretty easily. Where were ties? 3, 6, 5, 6, 9, 1, 2, 7, 3, 6, 9. Yeah, only 2 ties on the left, a lot of ties on the right. Definitely correct to go on the right here. And I'm pleased I ruled out, just for talking about my analysis, that I sort of felt bad about going on the left, that I felt uncomfortable there. There were ties there. You can find a sequence, but it's the harder path to take. Deli goes in 5, and I... All right, you remember back when I said, I think this might be lost, and then I said, and then the solver will say there are 8 ties. No, it won't. That's ridiculous. Well, it basically did. It says there are 7 ties here, which means I completely misevaluated this position. Now, there is potential, all right? There is that combo in 1. And, something I didn't realize, or something I blanked on. You have 2 different cards that can combo in 1, and they have different numbers facing out. So Deli, once a card comes out of his hand, can only use one of those at a time. Okay, so now the problem is those are both the cards you'd want to use in 3. So it's still tricky. Okay, where are the ties? 2, 3, 2, 3, 7, 2, 3. All right, you got to find 2 or 3 then, basically. Those are the key squares. I was on 3. I did not consider 2 at all. He does go 7. Was this the tying move in 7? So 5-5, 7-2, and 3 was a tie. Now, I assumed it lost to many things, but apparently it's just okay. All right, cool. This is not the tying move in 7. 5-5, 7-2 somehow tied in 7? All right, clearly I just don't have a grasp on this game, and it's going to be a little late to get that grasp. I'm going to close the solver. We're going to do the rest of thinking on our own. Tezuka takes safety. All I know is Deli has only one win. On the other hand, there's a very obvious move to make, so we should check that first. Take the T, and your remaining cards are great sweepers. And now one will be removed, so Tezuka's one bit of trickiness in the position is gone. So I think it's just going to be 5-7-6-3 and 1. I don't think this is very complicated. It makes Deli up 6-4, and he has really good sweepers. Now, there might be some way to sequence it so that, like, 5-6-5-5 on the bottom goes even against 7-5-3-5 and 9. But Tezuka needs to go better than even. Yeah. I think it's just got to be 5-7-6-3 and 1. Deli plays it. I think Deli has got this. Yeah, nicely played match by Deli. I underestimated a lot of moves. I'd sort of ruled out 5-5-7-4 and 5, which seems like it was a good enough move to win. Maybe there were higher pressure options. 7 ties is quite a lot, but also it was just really uncomfortable after that. Like, that I thought it was lost. I think, you know, the thing where someone goes like, I believe this, false bit of information that was being spread, but doesn't that I believe it tell you something? And the answer is like, yeah, it tells me that you're an idiot. Like, not always, but like often people will believe something false and then go, because I believed it, that shows you actually there was some truth to it, whether or not it was actually true. And this is just not the case. This means you were susceptible to believing things in a certain direction, and rather than address the fact that you're susceptible to it, you are treating your susceptibility as evidence for the thing. I think I said that fairly well. I think that's how I want to put it. So when I say that I thought this was lost indicates it was dangerous, I think that is more useful here than what I'm analogizing it to. Because in the other case, it's that I believe this proved there was some truth to it. No, that you believe this proved there was some convincingness to it. Those are very different. Convincingness doesn't have to be grounded in reality at all. It proved there was convincingness to it addressed to the audience of view. In this case, that I thought this was probably lost, when it in fact was not close to lost, says a player of my style and caliber could look at this position and think, that is horrible. And I think that is useful information. I think that is useful information and does suggest these are hard ties to find. It means I am wrong. It means there is a flaw. There are probably many more than one. There are flaws in my thinking. There are things I was evaluating as really strong here that are not as strong as I thought. There are things I was underestimating. The plus wall in 1. Just the simple ability to flip 6 and keep it safe. I thought 3 was the key move, but I thought it lost. And I was wrong. But it also goes to say, like, I thought this position was probably lost. Tezuka played a losing move that I assumed Deli played the correct response to. This seems like it was a very dangerous position, regardless of how many ties the solver identifies. So, anyhow, we're here. Brought a lot of almost politics into this video. Which is to say, was very clearly, like, effectively subtweeting various political things going on. But, we didn't make it explicit, so you'll never know. Yeah, I don't know what you try here. So the thing is, Tezuka has no captures on the bottom row, right? No captures. You're down 6-4. You need to go even on the bottom row. The only card that can possibly do that is 7-5-3-5 if Deli has 5-5-5-6 in his hand, or 6-6-7-2 if Deli has 3-5-6-6 in his hand. So you somehow need to use 5-5-7-2 on the top row and go +1. Take something and be safe. And you don't do this, so there's no possible. Yeah, this is a win. There's just no possible move that does what you need to do, and there's no combo potential that can uh, ameliorate that. So Deli advances with a really well played series, I think, by him. I didn't see the first game. Yeah, I mean, Tezuka makes one of the moves that connects to a line where he's okay, but yeah, there was nothing to do. Um, yeah, good win by Deli. Good move in 4. I was too attached to the card's future value, I think, to correctly identify that 4 was a nice way of doing something logical with his cards. Because I wanted to keep the 7 to the left. But I mean, you look at this T that got set up, and you look at 3-5-6-6 and 5-5-5-6, and you go, "Yep, those were very sufficient sweepers here. You did not need that 7 to the left." Deli does it fancy pants. I would have played one of the other cards in 8. I don't really care which. They're both wins. But that's cute. He has the plus both ways. Gonna get the 8-2 out of it. No, the 7-3. 7-3. I can count. Always been able to count. All right, congrats to Deli. Good win. Looks to be in very good form moving forward. Um, what's the bracket looking like in this tournament? Okay. The semifinals are Delial versus Addy. I haven't done the recordings yet, but I'm gonna do videos about the Turds Addy match. I think it was interesting and highly controversial, so it'll be fun to talk about. And then Metis versus Vid for the other spot. Sorry, Delial versus Addy is one semis, and the other is Akiyama versus the winner of Metis versus Vid. So I haven't checked if Metis versus Vid is like clearly happening. I think if it doesn't get played, Vid is much more active than Metis. Vid should go through. Um, if it does get played, obviously could go either way. If I was placing a bet, I think I would take Metis, but I'm not sure. I have no idea what kind of form Metis is in. So maybe that's a bad pick. But I think I'd lean Metis there. So semifinals, Delial versus Addy and Akiyama, one of Metis or Vid. And even if I like have Metis as a slight edge, it's nowhere near big enough to like pencil him into the next round. It's like, yeah, I think he's like 56% or something, Coin flip. All right, cool. Good luck to all remaining competitors. And yeah, hopefully we catch more of this tournament.